What's up, athletes? Thanks for tuning in to the Run Like an Athlete podcast. This is the show all about the everyday athletes, the normal people who find joy in running and competing. You won't find talks with pro athletes here, but what you will find is inspiration from athletes who do it for fun. The athletes who work regular 9 to 5s, stay-at-home moms, working parents, and lace up in between the hustle of work and social lives. Today, I'll be talking with Team Delta's Athlete of the Month, Betsy Doughty. Betsy joined Team Delta over a year ago as a way to train for CG Games. CG Games is a national fitness competition held all over the United States. And Betsy and her team made it to the final round in Arlington, Texas this past weekend. And we're definitely going to dive into that and talk about that as well. Betsy is a competitor at everything she does. We're going to dive into her work life a little bit as well. And I hope that y'all enjoy listening because I have really enjoyed training her over the past year, and I've loved getting to know her a little bit more, and I hope that you all find some inspiration from her. So Betsy, hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. And thank you for choosing me for Athlete of the Month and letting me represent Delta in November. So it's a great team. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, I chose you because everybody nominated you. So really, the team really wanted to get to know you a little bit more, and just they obviously find you inspiring already. So I'm super excited for them to just listen and get to know you even more as a competitor and just as, as Betsy.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I know what you do, but let's just for the listener, what do you do for your everyday, for your
For
work?
my everyday, as I'm sitting here in my sports coat,
I
I
know.
run a marketing department for a technology company in Boulder, Colorado. I have been with Spectralogic for 16 years, and
Wow.
I've been in technology sales and marketing since I graduated college. And I started at this company doing what's called channel marketing. And so I worked with some of their larger partners that sell their solutions and others as like a complete solution to end users. And then I just kind of grew in the company. I was there maybe like 9 months, and they're like, "Hey, you want to manage the team now? Your boss is taking another job," and just kind of worked my way up from there. And so I have been really fortunate to get to travel with this job worldwide, kind of been all over the world. And I manage a team of
Awesome.
about 20 people. And we are kind of in this really cool transition phase where we're moving from more of a hardware that companies like NASA or Discovery Channel or the Olympics is a really cool customer of ours, buy our hardware to store all of the data and footage for everything that they're doing. And we're moving into more of a software model where we're also doing the managing of data. So where they're storing it, how they move it around, where if they're like at the Rio Olympics, they can store it back at the headquarters, but they can also move it to different places around the world if people want to take the footage and make clips for news with it. So it's been a really
Wow.
cool transition into doing something I've never done before, which is market a software. So that's what I do.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. Where have you traveled for work?
Um, I have been to, I don't know, Germany, Amsterdam, London, Paris, I
Oh my
don't
God,
know,
everywhere.
mostly in Europe. Yeah. Canada. And then just for my own travel, I'm also a big travel buff. I'm trying to get my fifth continent, maybe in 2022. So I've been to Africa a few times, and I really, really want to go to Thailand. That's the next big one on my list. So
Oh my gosh, yeah.
love getting to travel. And it's been a long 2 years of not getting any bucket list
Oh,
trips off my list.
girl, preach. I am ready also. Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
bet. Has that been a little challenging with work, not being able to travel for your
Oh
clients
my
and things?
gosh. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be, I won't make this all a work podcast, but one of the most fun things that I've ever done, and probably that I'm most proud of in my career, when we went to virtual, basically last March, we found out all trade shows were going to be canceled because of COVID. And
Yeah.
that is the number one place that I got leads for our sales team to turn into opportunities. It was
Yeah.
over 60% of our leads came from these in-person events, and they went away. So I pulled in some of my like amazing team members right before we all went home to work from home, and was like, what are we going to do? And we created this virtual conference platform, and we named it Spectra Live. And we got our graphic designer to create all these cool logos and graphics and images. And we just started rolling out virtual conferences. And we not only switched all of our lead source to 100% digital marketing and nothing in person, I grew the number of leads by 90%.
Oh
And
my God.
so I've kind of proven that we can have this really cool digital marketing focus, and it's gotten me a little bit more resources there. Now, as the world's coming back, we're actually, some people on my team are at a trade show in St. Louis right now, and we have one next week in Amsterdam and one the following week in Vegas. That there'll be a really cool blend of how we do virtual and in person. And I just love that my team was kind of on the cutting edge of, we're not going to wait and see when the world is going to come back. We're just going to adapt to it right out of the gate. So that was a really,
Yeah.
really fun project.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. I think that's huge. That is that's so such a stressful thing. The whole world had to pivot
You had
and
to pivot.
oh yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I know a lot of trainers who were against very against going virtual and
Right.
didn't want to do it and stuff like that. And honestly, I mean, you guys know this as well. Like, you're going to get left behind. You have to be willing to change. You
Absolutely.
have to be fluid. And whether that's in your business or with working out, I mean, everybody started working out from home. I mean, you
Totally.
had been working out from home a little bit because you have a nice
Yeah.
gym and stuff in
Right.
your basement, but
Right.
yeah, what was that transition like for you, having to go totally virtual with your fitness?
Um, well, like you said, I've had a home gym, and I've had it, I don't know, for probably almost 10 years at this point. I got a treadmill probably 5 years ago. And so I always did a little bit at home, but I did a lot with Camp Gladiator in person. And I also had a gym membership so I could go lift a little heavy. And Camp Gladiator did a great job of shifting to virtual. And then obviously we found you, and the fact that you do so much programming and the virtual runs, you've got this whole Colorado contingency, and we've got people in DC and all over the US and maybe eventually all over the world. But it's been amazing to get to have kind of everyone going virtual. So I felt like I had a lot more support.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, I think you can tell with Delta, that's a big thing with me is community. And
Yes.
that was really weird. I went from having to be I was mentioning this to you this weekend, but going from being the trainer in person who, like, I'm so used to talking to everybody when I walk around and when I lead my in-person classes, I don't not say hi to one person. Like, I say at least a whole sentence, if not more, to every single person in my class. I want to know you. I want you to know the people that you're working out with. So that was really tough transitioning to virtual. I had to get on Facebook groups for the first time ever.
Right. Totally. I
um,
mean, and how we all kind of leave our sound on at the beginning with warm up, and it allows us to get a little bit of community. But you've also done a really good job building a Facebook group where we all cheer each other on. And, you've done some good community things. And I think that's the way that it has to be done to make people feel engaged and have that sense of getting to know someone, which is so important.
oh my gosh, it's huge with working out. Well, this is not interview about me. So we're gonna we're gonna transition and backtrack a little bit.
All right.
Um, I want to talk about your fitness career. I mean, you've been
Sure.
working out for a long time. You were a cheerleader in high school.
I
Talk to me
was.
about everything. Let's take me way back, Betsy. Take me way
Okay.
back to the beginning.
So I have pretty much always worked out. I can't think of a time in my life when it hasn't been something that I do. I was a cheerleader, I don't from like fifth grade all the way through. And, we were competitive in high school. And I sort of get this sense with my Beasties teammates where even in high school, we were talking about what do we need to do so that we can be better when we show up to the competition. And we would do things like go to the track and we would run while we were yelling our cheers just so that we could get used to yelling while we were out of breath. Like
Oh my gosh,
we even had that kind of mentality then.
that's amazing.
In college, I switched to, I took my freshman year, basically like a how to use the gym class. It was an
Yeah.
elective, and we had a guy that we went through like step aerobics things. We went through the cardio equipment. We did weightlifting classes. It was the first time I ever really was introduced to weights. And so I just used my gym membership all through college. And then after college, my dad and I started running together, and I had moved away from, I grew up in Oklahoma and I went to OU. And when I graduated, I moved down to Dallas. Everyone either goes to Dallas or Tulsa. And so I went to Dallas, and that was my first time really away from more than 30 minutes away from my home. And so my dad and I would meet in different places and do like 5Ks or 10Ks, or we do
Oh my God.
duathlons where I do the running and he do the biking. And so running became kind of a part of what I did. And I did lots of 5Ks and 10Ks. I've probably done a dozen half marathons. I did one marathon. It was on my bucket list before I turned 30, and I did it when I was 29, and I will never do one again. It was so hard, but I did it. Check.
Yeah.
And running's always been just, it's easy, right? All you need is shoes and a place to run, or, a treadmill. And so it's just always been something that's been easy to have in my routine. Other interesting fitness things along the way, I went through about a 4-year period where I was in a hip hop dance troupe, and we had like 3-hour rehearsals like 3 days a week. So it was a lot of hours during the week, and I just loved it. I had so much fun with it, but it just became such a hard thing to do once I started traveling more with my job.
Yeah.
So at that point, I shifted, and this is where I ended up meeting some of my beasties, to kind of a high intensity boot camp class. And so we all met there, and that was really fun. And then I dipped into another 4-year stint where I did bikini bodybuilding. And I think I showed you some of those.
Yeah.
It was mental. It was so much prep and diet. And, towards the end, right before a competition, it was 3 hours in the gym, and it was eating 7 times a day. And it was a lot. I was really successful. I did 14 competitions, and I won a place in, I think, 12 of them, fourth or up. So I liked it. It just became just eats at your body, and I needed a shift.
Oh yeah.
So Camp Gladiator came next in my very first Camp Gladiator class. Aaron and Tara were there, and they're like, hey, do you want to do CG games? I wasn't even signed up for Camp Gladiator yet. I was like, sure, let's do it. So that's been the last and final journey that I'm on now until the next one.
I love that. And just for everybody listening, Beasties, Betsy keeps mentioning, that is her CG Games team. They're Beast Besties.
Yes.
So Beasties. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a lot. I did not know about the hip hop dancing. That is so much fun. Now I know why you love Cody's class so much.
I love that. And that's why, yeah, every time you put on great music and you start dancing, I'm like, it's all I can do to say, no, just give us a 1 minute dance break.
You are always welcome to take a 1 minute dance break in class. Always, always. Oh my gosh. So that was actually going to be one of my next questions is how did you get into running? Like how special with your dad? Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh.
And
Is
he's
he
amazing. He's always been a bike rider. And so he did a lot of road biking, and then he's transitioned in the past couple of years to more like mountain biking. There's a bunch of trails around lakes in Oklahoma, and he has this
wow.
group of boyfriends that he goes with. And but he since I remember it, I was probably in second grade when he really started, and he has tracked every mile he's ever ridden on a bike. He knows it to the mile
Wow.
for the past however many 40 years that is. And I want to say he's been around the world like 4 times at this point.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
have a really cool influence in him who's just modeled it my whole life of fitness and, wanting to always improve and track and be goal oriented. And so I've just taken that into my fitness. But I think, pretty much everything I do, I tend to set goals for. So
Yeah. Well, you'd have to keep up with your dad.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. That'll never happen.
Never say never, Betsy. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, do
Yeah.
you and your dad still do runs together or?
Yeah, he doesn't run as much anymore. He's, I don't know, in his 70s, and
Mm, yes.
I think he's 71 now. And it's hard on his body. But when he comes to visit, we'll go on hikes or long walks, and he tries to drive here and bring his bike when he can. And I have a bike. I'm not very good at it, but I'll try to join him and try to keep up with him. He's insane.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh.
but
I love
he
that.
is by far my biggest cheerleader in my life. Always, he was on lockdown text message last Saturday at CG Games wanting to know updates between every event. So,
Oh, that's awesome. That has to be so fun for him too to see you still competitive or competing
yeah.
and going after it. That's awesome. I love that. What a special thing to have with a parent. I think
Yes.
Joy mentioned that as well in her interview that her dad kind of got her into running. So I
Yep.
I love that. We have a
I
bunch of
love that
daddy's
too.
girls on the team.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've done a lot of competing in a lot of different things. I want you to look back at everything, including this weekend, which again, we're going to dive a little bit more into this in a minute, but I want to know what would you say was the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think so much, we think back and we think about the day of my marathon, which was so hard and brutal, and the day of a bodybuilding show where, I'm the leanest and horrible spray tan and, you know, sparkles and glitter everywhere, or, CG games. And it's so much more for me. The journey is what I tap into. It's what it takes to get to that. Probably the hardest was the marathon. I did not have a coach. I did it. I found a plan in a book and I did what I could to track to that plan. I probably didn't have my nutrition on lockdown. And so it was brutal on my body and mentally. Now that I'm older and I realize I need help. I need coaching. I need a plan. I enjoy having a team. It's not that it's easy. I'm just more prepared. So I
Yeah.
think preparation is the smarter way to go about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you remember the plan that you did? when you were training
Yeah,
for it?
for the marathon, I did the Hal Higdon. There was
Mm-hmm.
a book and I bought it when I did my first 5K. And so I used that, and I was only strict with the long runs. I didn't necessarily stay strict with the things in between, the
Oh
runs
yeah.
during the week, but I tried to hit the long runs every weekend. And I ended up doing the marathon. It was in Las Vegas, and my parents flew out, and Jay came with me, and I had a couple of friends there. And it was the last year that they did the race this way, but they basically, from the strip, they drove you 26 miles out of town and you ran into Las Vegas, and it
Oh,
was pretty
cool.
flat. It was a little bit uphill at the beginning for like 6 miles, and then it was pretty like flat a little bit downhill where you ended on basically the Las Vegas strip. So the beginning of it was incredible. It looked like, in the movie Forrest Gump, when he's doing that whole running sequence, there were like the
Yeah.
sunrise through the desert was just
Oh.
breathtaking. Then the winds came, and it was one of the windiest January days that they've ever to this day had on record in Las Vegas. And it was in our face.
Oh,
And
that's hard. That's
it
like
was
worse than running uphill.
it was so horrible. And I remember like wiping my cheeks off, and they were like that salty crystals, and I was like wiping dust, and you'd see the dust fly off. It was just
Wow.
so brutal. So it would just even people that, would have finished the marathon to qualify for Boston or something were getting horrible times. So I
Oh
might not have
yeah.
had the best day to tackle something like that. But I finished it, and I wore stilettos to dinner.
Well, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I love that. Y'all, if you don't know Betsy, Betsy is going to look good no matter what she does. Because if you look good, you feel good. And I
That's
freaking
right.
love that. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is so, that's tough. I mean, training for
Oh,
people, I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of listeners who do marathons, regularly, half marathons, things like that. And they'll tell you, anybody who trains for a half full marathon, running events in general, it is a hard thing to do on your own. People don't, it's not something that you always think about. You are, yes, running is very much an individual thing. It's very internal, it's very mental,
totally.
but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you having a team makes a huge difference. Having people to just run with, or even simply having people that who are, okay, I'm going out for my long run today, and so are they. Even if we're not running together, I
Right.
know that Betsy, like, having that is huge. And the fact that you
Huge.
trained for that all by yourself, oh
And
my
they
gosh.
say women get faster, and I don't know what the peak is, but I definitely am so much faster and have such better form now. And it was back when we didn't even have iPods or iPhones like we do now, where you could have 1,000 songs. I like had one of those little ones where you could maybe have like 50 songs on it. And
Oh
so
yes.
my go-to song when I needed motivation was when Beyonce was in Destiny's Child, and it was I'm a Survivor. And
Yes.
I would run to that beat. That was like that was how I got on my pace. And it's so funny. I tried to run to that pace at some point in the past 6 months. It is so slow. I felt like I was like walking instead of, so I can't even use that pace song that I used when I was 29 training for a marathon.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Betsy, I know that you say you're not ever going to do a marathon again, but I think that now that you have a coach, you have a little better mindset. It might have to happen.
I mean, I did my last half marathon probably like 4 years ago, and it was really hard on my body, but maybe I mean that's such a great distance, right? Because you can easily run an hour. And so it's really just running 2 hours. See, it's easy to get your mind around a half. A full, oh
Yes.
man, I don't know.
I understand. I
Yeah.
understand. I get that. I like half marathons. In fact, actually, my favorite distance to run, if I'm being quite honest, is a 5K. Because it can
Oh,
be, yeah, a 5K can be easy. or it can be really freaking hard for like 15 minutes.
Totally. I remember when I first signed up with you, my first month goal was to do 3 miles in 25 minutes or less, and I did it. So, anyway, it's fun to set those kind of even short-term goals just to see what you can push for when you train in a short amount of time versus something that takes 6 months or a year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I really want to dive. I love asking this question, like, what is the hardest thing you've ever accomplished? Because there's so much. I'm very big on mentality, as I'm sure you're aware.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how did you overcome that? Like, talk to me about the emotions that you were feeling as you were training for this, not day of. Take me back to like training for this. Talk to me about the emotions and just kind of how you stayed motivated to get to that end goal.
I think motivation, I don't know how people get it. I know when I set a goal and I write it down and then I work backwards with a plan, I am just motivated by checking things off the list. And I, to me, I guess it's just having that plan and having a goal. And I've always had to have one. It's, if something ends, I'm on to setting the next goal. I mean, at CG Games, I held my tongue to not say within the first hour after we finished, all right, what's the training plan starting tomorrow? So I was ready to have that next goal. And so for me, that's where my motivation comes from. Um, things like in the day to day, I was laying in bed this morning and I hit snooze once. I rarely do that, but my little bulldog was so snuggly and she was laying and letting me hold her like a stuffed animal. So I hit snooze once. So in the day to day, it's things like sometimes it's a new playlist, sometimes it's a new workout outfit, sometimes it's that I know I only am going to take one day off of working out this week. And the next day I have a really early morning. And so it's more motivation for my making sure my schedule stays on track. So there's all kinds of ways that I trick myself into motivation. I'm also a counter. So when we get into workouts, it's things like you're going to run to the beat of this song, which is a little uncomfortable for 1 minute or through the choruses. And then on the verses, you can slow down. So I'm one of those that sets bargains with myself to get through the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 10 minute, the hour. So all of those things motivate me.
I love that. I love that so much. I think that's so important. As a trainer, I work with a lot of people who, have a hard time with motivation, and motivation it's fleeting. Some
Right.
days like you said, you wake up and you're going to want to hit snooze, or some days you wake up and you're like, I hate what I'm doing. Why did I sign up for this full marathon? Why am I training for this? Oh my God. But if you have those little things that like, you know what, I'm just going to go, I just need to get one. I just need to get 1 mile. 1 mile turns into 2, turns into 3, 4. Next thing you know, you're like, okay, I did my whole run and I really didn't want to do it, but I feel better that I did it now.
Right.
You're not going to feel, I mean, I love that you say that you're not going to feel like you want to do it every single day.
Right. It's you
And
set a bargain with yourself or with your team or with your coach, and just making those commitments are important.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So how did it feel to, you were mentioning in your marathon that you were like sand is in your face. Like I'm sure you're getting stuff in your eyes as you're running. The wind is coming at you. Like at what point did you have any point in that full marathon that you ran where you were like, why did I do this?
Not really. And I didn't have any, I'm going to quit, but in the last 6 miles, it was just the windiest. And I ended up, just without even verbalizing it, there were 3 of us that started like drafting against each other just to hide the wind from each other. So unspoken, we were kind of swapping places, and it was it was one of those, it was the last 6 miles. I remember being so brutal. I probably had to walk half of it, but it was those bargains with myself. You can walk until you see the next 0.1 mile, and then you're going to run for 0.2 miles. And then you can walk again for 0.1. And then you'd find yourself saying, no, I can run for one more 0.1 mile. So it was things like that I just used to get me through it. And I crossed the finish line, and my husband was there, and my friends and my family. And I was so exhausted. And I just remember I looked at my dad and I said, I need some French fries. And they were on a mission. We went and found me some French fries. So it was just knowing that I was going to be finishing, and all of the people around me were going to be there. And I think it was maybe my dad was obviously so proud of me, and Jay was very proud of me, but it was like a decade later, I don't know if he had a friend who trained for a marathon and really verbalized, what it was that the training was like, but he said something to me like, I didn't recognize in the time how hard that was and how much discipline and dedication that you had to get through that. And it was even a decade later, that pride was still there, just because it was such a big accomplishment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love that. Isn't that it's so serendipitous to have someone, years later, you've kind of put it out of your mind. You're not really thinking about it. Somebody say something like that to you, like,
right.
You're so right. Like, it just validates that you can do really hard things, even if you don't give yourself credit for them.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had 3 things on my bucket list by the time I was 30, and that one I was able to do. So.
Wait, okay. So what were your other 2? Now I need to know.
It was a financial figure, and I'd not hit it by the time I was 30, but I hit it in my 30th year. And it was traveling to Europe. And I also did not hit that by the time I was 30, but I hit it in my 30th year. And then in my 30s, I traveled a ton. So it just like tipped me over into getting to do that a lot. So.
Love that. They all ended up happening, just maybe not when you
Yes, not in my time frame. Exactly. And it didn't mean I wasn't working towards them, right?
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So I really want to talk about CG Games.
Okay.
And I'm sure that you do too. So just so that, again, everybody knows, CG Games, it's a national fitness competition put on by Camp Gladiator. Think of like CrossFit Games a little bit. There's a preliminary round where athletes go through this brutal course that takes the average person probably anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes to complete. Betsy is not average. So her and her team, they did that back in June.
Yeah.
June.
It was July.
It was July.
I think it was July. And we had one weekend that we were able to compete. In previous years, we were able to do it 2 weekends to try to get a better time the second weekend. And, a little chip on our shoulder, people in Texas were able to easily go do 2 weekends, either in the same place or they could travel. But we had to do it in one weekend. And it was on a football field, and imagine running, and there were 12 lanes of a variety of things that were like broad jump burpees, bear crawls with weights, throwing things, pulling things. So all kinds of different ways to test the different types of fitness that you could possibly do. And I know Erin cut off a ton of time. I don't remember how much, I think it was like 5 minutes.
Hers was big. Her PR was huge. I remember that.
I cut off about 2.5 minutes from my qualifying time 2 years prior. So I got somewhere around 17 minutes.
Which is also huge. Like
huge, right?
2 minutes. That's huge.
So we really just shined in prelims. And we were going into CG Games second in the nation, and our team of women that were age 40 to 49. So that's the division that we compete in. And we, from the time of qualifying, have really tried to put a plan together of running different events. And when we didn't know what the CG Games finals events were going to be, we knew it about 2 weeks ahead of time. We would go back to previous CG Games, previous prelims events. We did things like we would run around. There's a little lake in Lafayette near where a lot of us live, where it has a bunch of monkey bars and things you can climb. And we would do things like that. So the training was hard and so fun. We just have the most amazing training crew. David, who's a Delta athlete, was training as an individual. We had we had 4 other individuals, and we had another team that was on our consistent training group. Every single person placed on the podium at CG Games. So it's an amazing group. Totally.
Yeah, that is a testament to y'all's training group.
And I love how supportive and encouraging everyone is with each other. There is nothing but just sharing and cheering each other on. It's just such a unique group to be a part of. I don't think a lot of other kind of training groups, there might be a little more competitiveness within the group, and there was none of that. It was, how do we push each other to all be better?
Oh, that is awesome. It's like you said, having teammates who truly want to see you be better, even when they're, maybe competing against you or in the same division, like that's huge. That is very rare to find. That's so special. Oh my gosh. That's such a testament to y'all as a group of athletes together training for this. I mean, how amazing. And then especially like you mentioned this past weekend, how special to find that as an adult in your 40s. Like,
oh my gosh. It's been amazing to just have, I always say like having big girlfriends is the only way I want to do it. And I've been so fortunate to have so many different pockets of big girlfriends, but this, this group with Beasties and Mountain Mayhem and David and the other people on our training crew have just been, big girl friends. So.
I love that. And so on the day of games at finals, it is a brutal day as well. Prelims is very endurance based. Like I said, it's going to take the average person about 20 minutes to get through. Day of finals, there are 6 different events. There is a preliminary round of 4 events at prelims. Each event is going to take the athletes about 10 minutes to complete. Some of them are timed and they're trying to get as many reps as possible. Some of them are, here's this course, go through it. There's even like an obstacle course.
There's relays.
Yeah. Talk to us about that first, going into that first round, the morning of, how were you feeling? What was going through your mind?
We were I feel like we were as prepared as we could have been. We knew the course because we'd gotten the first 6 events about 2 weeks before, and over the 2 weekends, when we could, we strategized and did them full out. Then the night before, there was just a lot of nerves and excitement and all of the things. And we ended up bringing in a massage therapist to just kind of tune us all up. And then the Delta athletes went with you and you did a guided meditation. And it was needed because that was in my mind. And there was a whole thing about calming your mind down. You're feeling this lion inside of you that wants to get out, that's ready to go compete, that's been waiting and waiting and waiting. And you just need to quiet your mind a little bit longer. And we went through these cool breathing exercises. And I just took that into the day. One of the things that I thought was interesting, you said something like, breathe in, tell the lion to calm down, and breathe out and, let the lion be calm. And it was over the course of that breathing in and out. It was like in my mind, I became the lion. So the breathing out, my mouth became the lion's like growl almost. And so
Yes.
throughout the morning, as I was getting that anticipation, I would breathe in and tell the lion, just calm down a little bit. And I even did it before every event that we did. I would just like visualize it. So it definitely, that helped take us into these events, because we would do one, we would have 20 minutes to turn around, hydrate, eat something, and then we're right on to stretching, getting the explanation of the next one, and doing the next event. So it was a timing of just event, break, event, break, event, break. And so hydrating, eating, keeping our mindset right all day long was just a fun challenge. And I felt like we did a really good job with it. But that first event, I think Erin went first in our relay and I went last in the relay. And that just, when she went, it was like my heart rate went up with hers as she started doing the agility course. And I had to just tell the lion, calm down, your heart rate's going to get up in a few minutes. Just stay a little bit calmer for a little bit longer, and just doing those breathing techniques. And that first event was amazing. We ended up crossing the finish line first, 2 seconds ahead of the second place team. We got one penalty, which was a 3-second penalty. So it put us in second place. But after that event, we stayed in first place all day long. Our endurance was there. Our strength was there. Our mindset was there. We were just ready.
Yeah. Oh, and that was so awesome to watch y'all compete. This was the first time that I have got to watch y'all run in person and not behind a screen. So it was for me, as y'all's coach and training you for so long, I was getting so emotional. I was like, oh, look at their form. It's so good.
Just to, in some of those, the sprinting, and we have a few pictures of Susan and me and Erin, and we look like legit athletes. We're legit athletes.
You are legit athletes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was such an awesome day, and to watch you guys click and you were so in sync with one another. Like, that was incredible. I think I love what you said about keeping your mindset there. And I think that is one of the hardest things for athletes. And I've been training athletes. I've been an athlete my entire life. Right. I have trained athletes for a long time. And that is the hardest thing to do as an athlete, is to calm your mind in the heat of it. Oh. It's so easy to, oh, hello, my dog is, she's snuck in the room. It's so easy to let your mind just go and not be focused and think, oh my gosh, so-and-so slipped, I got to go faster. Oh my gosh, like this happened, instead of thinking, I am prepared, I can do this. Like, that's hard. So the fact that you were able to do that that's huge. That's a testament to you as an athlete and as a competitor. So that's awesome, Betsy. I love that.
Yeah, it was an amazing day for sure.
How did it feel to be totally done at the end of the day with all 6 events competing? Mind you, they were competing from like 7:20, 7:30 in the morning until like 8:00 at night.
Yes, it was a long day. We felt really accomplished. We were tired. We knew that we had worked as hard as we could. We held our own with some of the best athletes around, and it felt really good. We ended up getting third, which was not where we wanted to place in the final event. And, the final event is this, strange, you've done this whole day of these big, brutal burpee, running, sprints, relays, and then it's this 2.5 minute, obstacle course that, for me, one of the things that I got caught up on was a balance beam, which is not something I really ever train. And so it was a little tough to walk away with third when we knew that we we're better athletes than that third place finish gave us. But I think that's just going to fuel the Lion for 2022. And we're already talking about how do we get it. I think we're thinking that, yes, we want to like learn to do some things better, like the cargo net and
Yeah.
monkey bars and balance beam and wall climbs and, finding places to do that. But it sounds like we're all realizing that we need to be able to perform that when there's lots going on around us, when our bodies are exhausted. And so it's not just, all right, we're all at the monkey bars, let's one at a time go across from them. What if we do 8 back and forth sprints and our heart rates are going really high and people are yelling at us, and then we do the monkey bars? So I think we know that there's some mental things we need to train for this too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And again, a lot of people have never seen CG Games finals like that. It's a little chaotic. They have 4 people, just to try to paint a picture. They have 4 athletes going through this course at a time, and they're released about 1 minute after another wave of athletes has gone. So there might be, if an athlete, if a team in front of them is going slow, there might be 5 athletes all at once trying to scramble up a cargo net that maybe fits 2 people.
Right.
So and y'all are good competitors. You don't want to accidentally like push someone off or accidentally slap someone or anything while you're trying to, while also trying to pass them. And then on top of that, you have judges and trainers next to you, like yelling. There's a bunch of commotion, and
totally,
there's a lot of talks. I've watched some interviews with professional track athletes, and they have guided meditation for big competitions, because that's a terrifying and just honestly a humbling position to be in.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, you can attest to this. You were standing, I have a picture of you. Betsy started first on the very last event, and she's standing there. She's in the front of the line, because if you go into the final event in first, you have a little bit of a head start. So Betsy's in first. She's got 3 athletes behind her, and there's a huge crowd of people staring at her. Like all the people, they make sure that all the people watching, the spectators, are sitting in front of the athletes. So here's Betsy in first. I can only imagine what is going through your mind, like standing on the line. She's got people behind her. She knows, like, we're sitting in first. People are out to get us. There's a target on my back. And here's, hundreds of people sitting in front of me screaming.
Right.
Like, what was that like?
I was doing the lion breathing. I was breathing in and letting the lion slow breath out and trying to just settle. A lot of every woman that was lined up with me and across the whole obstacle course where Erin and Tara and Susan were waiting had done this event more than we had. And I think we did well. We were all able to do all of the obstacle course events. It's just that mental aspect. And we learned some things. I learned some next year, if that's the lane that I'm in, and I don't know, we'll see what it ends up being. There are things that I saw in how other teams approached it that I'll do differently next time that I think will get me ahead. And so just having the experience of it, now we've done it twice, at least Erin and Tara and I have done it twice, and Susan's now done it once. I think we're going to go in much more prepared next year, knowing what to expect.
Oh, that's huge. Oh man. Wow. Well, Betsy, this has been an amazing conversation. I have really loved getting to know you better as a competitor and as your mindset and how you get through everything. I think it's been awesome. I hope that everybody listening has found some inspiration or been able to take things from Betsy's own story and apply them to their own lives and their own goals going forward. Betsy, do you have any last words of encouragement or advice for anybody who maybe wants to take on a new challenge and they're not really sure where to start, how to stay motivated?
I mean, yeah, getting a coach or someone to help you, I think is so important. And it wasn't until, I hired the bodybuilding coach and, I have you and we have our CG coaches that I realized how important that was. And then once you've set that big goal, breaking it into little goals is the way that it can feel achievable. It's, where do you need to be a week out? Where do you need to be a month out? Where do you need to be 3 months out? And how do you break that into chunks? That's the day by day and the workout by workout to make that happen. And then for the motivation, just having the goal sometimes is enough to carry you through. And I love all the different kinds of goals that Delta athletes have, whether it's games or halves or fulls, or, some people it's just, I want to be able to run a mile in 7 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever it is. I just love how we all support each other and can all be doing the same workout together with different focuses internally on what we're trying to achieve. And it feels like a great community of support for everyone to accomplish that.
You're going to make me cry. I love that. Yes. Yes. Oh, well, y'all, in case you guys don't know, Betsy has her own podcast that you can listen to on Spotify. She's got a few episodes out. I have listened to them. It's fun to listen to Betsy on the flip side, have her being the interviewee. So tell us, Betsy, where can we find you?
Yeah. So I had a kind of a big goal that I'm going to throw another coach out there. I also have an executive career coach, and she's incredible. And at the beginning of the year, we set a couple of goals to achieve. And one of them was I wanted to get a podcast out. And I ended up having some amazing people on my team that were like, we're just going to buy you a mic and we're going to start recording. And it ended up being so fun. And I love it. So my company is called Spectra Logic, and Spectra is like the spectrum, like the light spectrum. And so we named the podcast the Spectra Current. So kind of like electrical current. And it is on Spotify. It's on our website. And I don't interview people in the industry to like talk about boring data storage. I try to get them to talk about their own experiences, their own careers, the pivots they've made in their career, how they got where they were. I like knowing the stories behind the scenes. And I think you should let me or someone interview you on one of these monthly podcasts because you have some really amazing history that I don't think we all know much about, as I got to find out this weekend.
Well, we might have to set something up, Betsy, because I love talking about myself. So
you have some fascinating just fitness background and just accomplishments that you've had.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, yeah. I just hope that I can continue to keep the drive going just like you and find a group of ladies or group of guys and ladies who help push me. And I think I'm doing that a little bit with Delta. So
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for having me as Athlete of the Month. I can't wait to see who the next one is because everyone has just had some incredible stories to tell.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, thank you, Betsy, for being on the show. You have an incredible story, and I appreciate you sharing it. Team, Betsy has me feeling so inspired. What a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Make sure to go check out Betsy's podcast, The Spectra Current, on Spotify. And for more Run Like an Athlete content, check out my YouTube channel or find me on Instagram at SoFitSonia. Until next time, team, get out there and run like an athlete.